Welcome everyone to day 4 of the coverage at WMUCC, live from the University of Limerick. My name is Gigi Morrison and I am joined by the lovely Sean Colfer, who is looking rather damp after some of the rain this morning. Sean, how are you feeling about this game so far?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be really good. These are two teams that are in the top 16 for a reason. They're both very talented, so I'm looking forward to it, even if the conditions are a little challenging.
So, descent from the US, starting out on offense. Roy just getting a turn there, so that is Bignell on disc for Reading. Taking it down to Armstrong. Back to Bignell. Lots of cuts being generated for Reading. Got a deep shot, Armstrong looking deep. Number 49 top, scoring the first goal and a break for Reading.
Yeah, break straight out of the back for Reading. Mark Bignell with the catch block and then moving it around the back. Mark Bignell going to be one of the key handlers for Reading in this game. You can see him kind of operating that handler space, waiting for a shot. Paul Armstrong just beats that handler deep and gets that first break of the game. Great start for Reading.
Yes, they will most definitely be enjoying that to start off with. They've been looking forward to this game for quite a while, having finished second in their first pool, now moving into the power pool stage, knowing that descent will be an extremely tough matchup. Just get another look at that poach block from Bignell. Very experienced player for this Reading side.
Yeah, Bignell, who's a GB men's player in the last rotation in 2019, got a European gold medal with them. Definitely the fulcrum from the male perspective of this Reading side. He's going to play largely D. He does cross onto the O-line from time to time as well, but very, very strong player, and he's going to really dictate how a lot of this game goes from the defensive side for Reading. That's only the 6th point Descent have conceded at this tournament, GG. They 15-1, 15-3, 15-1 in their previous 3 games. So, interesting start. I don't think they've been down this entire tournament so far.
Yeah, you said that you had a quick chat with them. You said they were very understated about their approach towards their results so far. They start again on offense. Cranston moving down the pitch to Highland. Lots of options, but being shut down very effectively by the Reading defense. Bacon looking for the hammer towards the front of the end zone, into the end zone for their first score of this point. Descent making it look nice and easy.
Yeah, like you say, Gigi, I talked to them beforehand and they said they like playing a very clean offense, and that was very clean. That was very nice, all down this near side, close to the camera. Kelly Highland, Ireland national team player. She picked up the game, I think, in Cork, so this is going to be very familiar conditions for her. So working down the sideline with her, I believe, Scandal teammate Erica Bacon, and nice hammer for the score.
You mentioned DC Scandal. There are a lot of these players hailing from DC. A couple of extra players like Sarah Mextroff from Dragon Thrust. Although we have not been able to spot Sarah Mextroff, we are unable to confirm whether she is currently playing.
We saw her on the roster and was like, oh, she's very good, but we can't see her at the moment.
I'm almost a bit starstruck commentating this game. It's an absolute honor to be covering this matchup, not just because of the absolute star line from Descent, but also some of my friends and ex-teammates of Reading Ultimate. We are trying not to be biased.
Well, I don't need to be biased. I never went to a World Championships with Reading, GG, so I'm all good. You're the one who's going to have to watch yourself.
That brick just being pulled out. Sideline. That pull being bricked. Apologies, the wrong way around. But Gumby actually choosing not to take it from the center, keeping it on the sideline. Reading now set up in a horizontal stack. Looking immediately deep for Helen Roberts, sprinting as fast as she can, just off the fingertips. She's not going to be happy about that one.
That is not the last time we're going to see Sam Gumby rip it deep. We can both tell you that from experience, you playing with him and me playing against him. And Helen, another Great Britain player, played Great Britain Women's in 2019. Fantastic cutter. You're right, usually she's going to reel those in, but these conditions are making it really greasy to try and catch that disc.
A lot of defensive pressure from Cranston as well. Reading looking a bit poachy.
Gumby, gotta go.
Now onto the sideline, Denacor. Back to Bacon. Cranston. Big fake deep. Very good momentum moving down this pitch. An arcing flick, Gumby able to read it and pick it out of the sky. But there has been a foul call, uncontested.
Yeah, it looked like the disc definitely came out short, so not surprising with some contact on the arm there. But Sam Gumby, not generally known for big defensive blocks, but that was a nice catch.
Let's get another look at that. Absolute hops. Céad getting the disc moving again. Delacour. For Reading getting right in the way. Graham Byford slapping that down. Receiving it again in the middle of the pitch. Webby just throwing it out of the hands of Pepe. Cranston starting up again. The rain continuing to pour down in these very tricky conditions. Delacour. Not much movement from the descent offense. Although we do have Delacour streaking deep. Are they going to look at that as an option? Stall count rising. Barnstein. Pick call in the middle of the stack.
It's quite frantic offense, isn't it? There's a lot of movement around, particularly around the disc, whereas downfield they're not getting much separation at all.
Checks back in, dumps to MacArthur. Bacon, looking immediately deep, into just out of the hands of Buh.
I don't know whether the conditions, whether the wind or something has just made her take her eyes off it, went through her hands and hit her in the chest, but that was a tough point for, a tough possession for the descent D-line there. They did a good job moving it around the handlers.
Roberts looking to try and get the disc moving again. High release backhand, unfortunately, diving right into the turf. Bartenstein now getting the disc moving. Centers to Bacon. Very well swung across the Cranston. Inching ever closer to the end zone. MacArthur. Not very many options, but manages to get a quick dish off and another pick call.
Yeah, it's Pepe Espinosa just being held up by the front of the stack as he tries to come across, and may well want to switch on that cut there. But yeah, as you can see, he's just negotiating about how far away he was, I think, when he called the pick. But he's making up some ground, not all of it. That's just going to cause him a pick. There we go. Damn golf ball moves.
Espinosa having, over recent years, moved across to Reading Ultimate, previously playing for Chevron Action Flash. Descent getting yet another score, having to work very hard for that, but now bringing the score to 2-1.
Yeah, they had to work really hard. As you say, that they have that break back. Interesting point from both teams. I think the one thing that both teams are going to discover pretty quickly in this game, given the conditions, given how windy it is, how wet it is, you can't turn in your own half. And there was just a little handler miscommunication from Reading, left descent with a short field. We saw when they had a longer way to go earlier in the point, they were stuck in their own half, moving it back and forth, a lot of poaching, a lot of shutting things down upfield, worked really well for Reading. But when you give someone a short field like that, much tougher to keep them out.
The Descent having initially credited their dominating performance so far from how clean they are working. We're not seeing very many turnovers being generated by drops, but Reading making it extremely difficult for Descent to actually generate any sort of momentum. We get to see that again, MacArthur doing a fantastic job in jumping into the end zone. Now having a little bit of calm, the wind seems to die down.
Don't jinx it.
I'm wanting to jinx it. This is Ireland. The weather can change at any second. That pull well fielded by Roberts. Centered to Bignell. Done up to Godbold. Reading moving very well. They know their offensive structures and they trust in each other quite a lot. Stall count now rising. Not very many options, but finds Roberts on his closer sideline. Descent having to scream and shout, making sure that their defense is working hard from the bidding players. Hand block from Denacor off a throw from Gumby. And looking immediately deep again for Denacor, rising up. Bright white gloves into the end zone, into the hands of Brian Schoenrock. Score now at 3-1.
Yeah, Denacor and Schoenrock know each other very, very well. Have played together on Dragon Thrust for years and years. Denacor on the catch of the pull, Helen Roberts through to Sam Gumby. I don't know whether you saw, Gigi, whether any of the viewers saw. Denacor got a Callahan at US Nationals, and I had visions of him snatching it away from Gumby just as he was about to catch that pass from Roberts. But Denacor is going to be somebody that we're going to have to look out for in this game. One of the best defensive players in mixed in the world, was on the US team, I believe it was going to 2020. That bid that we see there from him against Sam Gumby, and as soon as he gets this hand block, goes deep immediately and is able to get the assist to his longtime teammate.
Definitely a player who we will be calling out quite a lot. Currently got Lyle, 3.5-year-old, watching at home.
Yeah, Lyle, who both his parents play for Dragon Thrust, so he has a good shot of being a pretty good frisbee player in the future.
Rolling pull, very good roll, gaining a lot of yards down the pitch. The Reading O-line now getting everything moving again. Kearns sent to Bignell. Bignell looking again immediately deep, but a pick call will stop and stifle that momentum.
Looks as though Avrill's going to fetch the disc. Avril Hunter's going to fetch the disc, but there's some discussion about whether it's a turn, but it looks like it is coming back. Bignell releasing it. I don't believe Avril Hunter knew it went up, so she stopped. So we are coming back to Mark Bignell.
To see some of the players from the D-line crossing over onto this O-line. I believe that Reading, if they maintain the same structure as they did from Worlds in 2018, they will have a primary and secondary line for both their O-line and D-line, so a lot of players having to blend and bleed in between the two.
Good inside knowledge.
It's almost like I played for them.
Stack's a long way away. Long way away, in fact. That's a good 15 meters between Bignell and the front of Stack here, which in these conditions is ambitious.
Could also be credit to Descent possibly trying to force them under, Reading taking advantage of that. That is exactly what we are seeing here, Reading generating good offensive flow. Webby looking for Bignell but struggling to find anything. Bignell manages to get the cut off. A round flick to Byford in the end zone. Reading getting a nice hold there against some very tight defense from Descent.
Yeah, they needed that, and it was really nice play in short little spaces. We saw those roll curve OI flicks into a space where they're coming across into an inside shot. Really tough throw to execute, but when you have good cohesion between you, you've got good knowledge of how each other play, like many of these Reading players do. It looks great and means you can get some really quick movement going. And there was a really nice around flick from Mark Bignell to Graham Byford, who turns 33 today. So that was a nice birthday present for him. He's got Reading players indicating that he's turning 50. Don't believe that is the case. I think it is 33, but nevertheless, happy birthday to Graham, and a nice stat to put down on the sheet for him on his birthday. Great throw around.
Having, again, a brief discussion with Reading before the game. They don't necessarily have any strict goals for this tournament. They are just wanting to score some goals, which is exactly what Gumby has said, but they've managed to make the top 16, now playing off in the power pools of the upper stages. Very difficult game to start off here. Bright yellow pants rising. Highland down the sideline, bidding Ashton, but Tucker maintaining possession. Looking, high release backhand, but so many hands underneath that. Wodach getting good hands to it. Sent us again to Wodach, having to not necessarily stay standing very often. Spiva looking for the around. Wodach back again to Spiva. Stack is very stagnant, not a lot of movement. Ong into the front corner of the end zone. Nice and easy from Descent.
Yeah, it's just a blown buzz switch, I think, by Reading. Paul Armstrong's taken a step infield as his teammate was trying to indicate that he stay on the thrower, and they switched there. And that slight movement into the field left that easy down the line pass. And I believe it's Kat Ashton can't get anywhere close to the receiver in the front corner. But Spiva and Wodach, long-time DC players, they're going to be really important on this Descent team, and we saw that they're basically around the point.
A heroic bid from Ashton, getting centimeters away. I am enjoying the brightly colored waterproofs from Spiva, Wodach and Ong.
Yeah, you just see on that replay Paul Armstrong taking a couple steps. It's just unfortunate. They'll sort that out, I'm sure. That's just a miscommunication.
So, score now being 4-2. Very exciting matchup. Both of these teams having done very well in their pools. Descent having topping their pool, and Reading finishing second. The Reading O-line now getting moving, facing up against some poachy defense and a very quick pick to start off this point.
Is that sunshine? I see shadows.
It's an uncommon sight, but this is Sunny Sunny Limerick. It has been beautiful at times. It's not as cold as it has been in previous days. Would you believe it?
Wow.
Espinoza on the sideline. Again, everything looking a bit stagnant. Not very many cuts generated. The stall count is now rising. Espinoza having to look deep to Roberts, but it just sails out the back of the end zone.
Yeah, like you say, Gigi, that was stall count rising. You could see the handler set wasn't quite sharp enough, wasn't able to get away from the defenders, and Espinoza just had to make sure that he didn't give Descent a short field like we talked about earlier.
Bartenstein drying off the disc. Descent having to call some sort of structure. It looks like they are doing a side stack set, possibly with a slashing cutter across. Choosing to dump to Bacon. Reading doing very well in this poachy hand, their defense rising up against Bignell, just not able to get to the disc. Bartenstein reading it perfectly. Book. Bartenstein. Descent moving very well into the front corner of the end zone. Wonderful stuff from Descent, working against the conditions despite having a couple of discs popped up into the air. And a timeout has been called.
Yeah, unfortunate for Reading there. You could see Bignell got close to this one here, but it's a nice backup, and Descent, as you say, Gigi, worked it down really nicely, despite the conditions, to get the score.
And just as the players take a quick break, we will also take a break. Stick around for more coverage.
He's in a great spot. He's in a perfect spot. Yes, his massive head has blocked everything. That was a huge play, but we have seen none of it. Finny.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, Ultimate TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
fund
our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
Welcome back to this Mixed Masters game live from WMUCC from the University of Limerick. I'm joined by Sean Colfer on pitch 3 currently. We're watching a very exciting matchup between Descent and Reading. Sean, tell us about this game so far.
It's been good, it's been very competitive. I think the main thing that we're seeing is both teams are having periods of playing well despite the difficult conditions. Descent more so than Reading at the moment, but the thing that's really making a difference is Descent's defense, what a tongue twister that is making a real difference on Reading, particularly in their handler space. And we have a drop pull there, and it's going to be another short field for Descent.
That's the first drop pull that I've at least seen from teams so far. Very difficult to be able to read those, but Godbold very bravely trying to take that on. Bacon now on the front end zone line. Quick pop pass over the top into the hands of Sean Rock. Descent now widening the margin.
Yeah, so far they've been one of the best teams at the tournament. I said at the beginning they had a break on the first point, Reading, which was only the 6th point that Descent had conceded. Well, they've only now conceded 7 in the tournament, despite the fact that Reading had that quick start. We are starting to see why Descent must be considered among the favourites to win this thing. They are very strong across their whole team. They're using their men, using their women very effectively, playing good mixed, and they are making it really tough defensively on Reading here.
So Reading got a lot to answer for in the next few points. Descent are an extremely difficult matchup to play against. Some big stars, big lineup from the DC area. A couple of Dragon Thrust players as well. For Reading having a huge amount of crossover between the WUCC team as well as the WMUCC teams, representing at the World Club Championships later on this year. Well, next month, in fact. Getting much closer. I have not booked my flights yet. It is making me nervous. I also don't have a passport. That's another thing.
I have 2. I have an Irish one and a UK one. You can borrow one of mine if you want, Gigi. I'm not sure it'll work, but
do
we can
I
give
have
it a
to
go.
grow a mustache?
You'll have to grow a mustache, I'm afraid. Yeah, my mustache looking resplendently ginger.
I'd rather not. Espinoza bringing in the bricked pull, choosing to dump to Roberts. Looking at a lot of options. Byford coming under. Wanting to look for the deep option, but manages to find Webby on the sideline. Pick call, but thankfully caught again by Roberts. Checks in on the sideline. Just out of the hands of the Reading players. Oh no, was actually well received, but then blocked again. My view was blocked, unfortunately, but Bartenstein made the bid. Gumby calling a foul. Appears to be uncontested.
Very aggressive option from Bignall. Tough to tell. It looks like he does kind of lay across as Gumby is extending his hands there. And is he calling a foul or a strip? Obviously, if it's a strip, it looks like Gumby's feet are in the end zone. It's a goal. Maybe that is what they are trying to determine here.
Either way, Gumby will be retaining possession of the disc.
So it looks like it's a foul. The game advisor looks like he's just said you need to bring it to the front.
But the hammer option, not something I've seen much from Bignall, but something I credit a lot. And that is Reading with a nice easy pop into the end zone. Fantastic work.
Yeah, good work from the O-line. I said earlier that the real difference in this game so far was Descent's clamped defense on the handler marks, making it really difficult for Reading to reset the disc, particularly off the sideline. And we saw there a little bit of miscommunication just at the hands of Helen Roberts there, but it's good backup from Bignall. But that just shows you how tough it is for Reading to kind of move the disc at the moment. But they get it through. Gumby with the catch in the end zone, and nice cheeky little lefty for the score to the birthday boy.
Trying not to give too much away, but Reading they do prefer to have their dump handlers stacking relatively close together, particularly when they are on the sideline. It just gives them that backup option that we saw there. But it also means that if one of the handlers is having to strike up the line, that you've got the secondary dump already there in position, ready to catch a pass around.
And we are seeing as well some of the downsides where Descent are kind of poaching off and sagging into those lanes and making it really hard. In wind like this, where it's tough to throw, you need to really concentrate. That does become something of an issue, as we are seeing.
Beautiful pull, well centered in, looking immediately deep for Schoenrock. Fantastic bid in the end zone, immediate score. Descent absolutely dominating in the deep space there.
Yeah, it looked as though Whitfield was in a perfect position, to be honest, and they threw it out onto the open side. But it was a great throw and a great catch. He doesn't even try and put his feet down, does he? He's like, if I just land on my side, we're going to have a goal here. So he just kind of threw himself at it. It leapt like a salmon, to use a phrase from football commentary. Yeah, that was quite a catch. Look at that. Big rip. It's on the open side and just throws himself at it.
Beautiful
nice quick
throw.
score.
Beautiful throw from Spiva. And yeah, as you said, you only need 1 point of contact in the end zone. Doesn't matter what point of contact that might be. Bright yellow trousers.
Boom.
That could have ended quite painfully.
It could have done. It could have done. We have one player on our team who's landed on his knee and is might be out for the rest of the tournament. Fingers crossed he's going to be okay. But we're all aging, GG. Time marches inexorably on, and I feel at times quite old. I'm sure some of the players on this pitch have had that feeling. And landing on your knees from a height like that is an optimistic thing to do.
Although teams like both of these sides are showing us that just because you are playing within the Masters division does not make you exempt from being an athletic player. These are some of the best players in the world that we are seeing on the stream currently, live from the WFDF YouTube channel. Espinoza off to Brown. Lots of cuts open, but Brown unfortunately throwing it into the turf. That disc now being quite soggy in the grass. On the sideline, immediate rip deep. Bartenstein looking for Book. It comes off well. Descent showing how dominant they are so far and why they have made it look so easy in the tournament. Taking the half, 8-3.
Yeah, that is obviously the turnover is unfortunate from Reading's perspective, but from Descent's perspective, that is a real wow point. That is move it and then that shot to the end zone. It's into a fairly narrow window. He's on this sideline. The cutter is quite close to the sideline. But what a throw that is. Absolutely fantastic. And Descent are really flying at the moment. And it looks as though they are in a great position to go on and win this game.
Reading absolutely looking at the right options. Execution falling behind a little bit. We now have about a 5-minute break. So we are going to take some time away from the booth, grab a snack, grab a drink, and join us again in a few minutes.
The ultimate things in life are free, and we're keeping it that way. Subscribe to keep up with the latest games, tournaments, and community content. Share it with your team and friends, and drop a like to help spread Ultimate to more people. Spread the word, spread the love. LT.TV.
The reason I came in is the body language not right. One minute left in halftime. 1 minute left.
Welcome back to the second half of this Masters mixed game of Reading Ultimate versus Descent from the USA. I am Gigi Morrison, joined by Sean Colfer in the booth. Sean, how has this first half gone?
It has been a really good performance from both teams, but Descent looked to be as strong as we thought they were. This is a team that at the outset, looking at the squad list, you would have put among the favourites, and they are showing exactly why that is the case. They are playing some really smothering D, and some of their offense has been really clean, and they have been coming out with some really big plays on O and D. So 8-3 up, and they look to be in a great position for this game and for the rest of the tournament.
Reading, having spoken to us on the sideline just during the halftime, they are actually elated so far with the scoreline. Obviously wanting to get a couple more points, but if they were to get a few more points, they will actually be the best performing team against Descent so far. Descent having quite a star lineup, some very recognizable names. Now starting out on defense, Reading fielding the disc well. Roberts dumping off to Gumby. Took up bold. Descent are coming in with a zone. Trying to slow down any sort of offensive structure that Reading tries to set up. Beautiful disc from Espinoza, looking to go a little bit low, but Byford catches that with ease. Descent now opting for match. Into the front of the end zone, Byford in, possibly being called out. They are allowed to get the opinions from the game advisors. The game advisors can only clarify the rules, however.
I thought it looked in, but it was close, but it was nice offense against the zone from Reading.
Stallcamp rising, looking for options, having to dump across to Gumby, but Gumby reads it well. Looking again to Byford into the front of the end zone. Beautiful work. Descent not able to shut that down.
That is a really good bid from Cranston, trying to get a finger on that. Really good end zone set from Descent. It was a late dump that came out, but Sam Gumby finds the spot that his receiver is going to be able to catch it. Interesting zone, 3-3-1 from Descent. So it was a 3-person cup, and they had Caleb Denicourt kind of in the middle. But that throw from Espinoza broke it open completely. Just enough spin on it to keep it up long enough for Byford to run onto it, and it was into an end zone set from there. Nice offense from Reading out of half. I think they needed that.
There was that contested in-out call. Byford possibly having his foot onto the front end zone line. So it was called out initially. And then Gumby finding Byford again, giving Reading yet another point. They must be excited about that.
Yeah, it was a good offensive point against that zone. I wonder whether we'll see it again from Descent. It might be something they want to work on for the rest of the tournament. So play it now and see and work out the kinks. But I think, given the scoreline so far and how Descent have been doing on match, I think the zone is going to be a welcome thing for the Reading O-line.
Highland sends it up to Denicourt. Denicourt looking for options, but Reading defense sticking very tight. Wodach. Inside shot to Ong. Highland. Back to Ong. Some very flavorful trousers. Denicourt into the front of the end zone to Wodach. We're saying a lot of the very same names. These are some incredibly high-level players. Descent now showing their dominance.
They are. That kind of point looked pretty straightforward for Descent, to be honest. There was no point where they looked like they were in any trouble. They got it onto the sideline. They were able to move it from there, not only down the line, but back in the field as well. Reading trying to exert some pressure, but not really working there. Caleb Denicourt continues to have an absolutely phenomenal game. Said before, like you say, Gigi, you said his name a lot. We said before, one of the best players in the mixed division for a long time now, but really showing his class, as are the rest of his team.
Fantastic break backhand shots from Ong. And then a beautiful inside shot into the hands of Wodach. Sporting some fantastic gloves. Gloves possibly provided by Friction Gloves. They are grip for your game. Be prepared for rain, humidity, cold wind, and more. A lot of what Limerick is providing so far. That was a big old tongue twister.
There might be Get Feel Cream as well. I mean, there could be anything. A lot of people wearing gloves, actually. I'm not surprised, given that it has been pretty wet, pretty damp, and with this kind of wind, might make the disc move as it gets to your hands. So wearing those friction gloves definitely going to be a benefit in conditions like these.
Huge arcing pull. Is able to stay in bounds, just out of bounds in the pitch.
I love the ambition.
Very big look. We don't tend to see pulls like that too often. Nicholson just arcing it out of the pitch.
Descent back to match here.
Gumby bringing in the pick. Espinoza. Just out of the hands, well tipped and well read by Book. Looking down for Cranston. Cranston having to go to ground for that. Down the sideline to Bartenstein. Getting close to the end zone. Dumps it off. Cranston, stall count rising. Finds Bartenstein in the backfield. They have a wide open receiver in the end zone, but don't seem to find them. Bartenstein again. Back to Cranston. These are two handlers working very hard for that. Just up. Well received. Had two receivers in the end zone. It's very close to getting to the ground. This wind just bouncing it up. I unfortunately can't see the number of the player who received it, but very well done from Descent.
I think it's Ashley Book who lays out in front, and I thought had put off Erica Bacon, I think, behind her. But that is, we're seeing the replay now, that is a really good catch in the back of that end zone. I thought that was going to be a turnover. Great
Not for
pickup.
the intended receiver, but
Great pickup.
that was indeed Erica Bacon who managed to pick up the scraps of that throw.
It's another one where there's a turnover from Reading. It looks like a little bit of a miscommunication. It just kind of bounces over a couple of players, and a defender gets a hand on it. But the D-line from Descent, some of this offense, some of this work in between the handlers is so good and so tough to stop for the Reading O-line. They are really making it tough on that O-line, having to run and run and run to try and get the disc back, and it doesn't matter in the end because they're scoring anyway.
It is just how clean and clinical Descent have been that is separating them from vast majority of the other teams here. They're able to maintain composure and stay tight and make sure that their discs are true to their players. They trust each other very well. But Reading now having to answer. Kearns finds Armstrong, looking deep to Hunter. The honey pass unfortunately does not come off. Armstrong throwing that way too high above Hunter's head.
I also think it's a long way out the back. That end zone doesn't stop there. This wind, obviously really difficult to read, but yeah, just not quite getting that one right.
Game advisor getting a bit of a jog on, trying to bring that disc back in.
Very helpful.
Maybe save the Descent players some more energy.
I'm sure the Reading players will be thanking them for saving Descent players' energy, but that's okay.
So Descent now in a vertical stack. Looking to immediately break off of the front. Chooses to dump. Bartenstein. Almost blocked, and it is blocked in fact. Big pressure from Fox. Sorry, that was Espinoza. Reading now have an opportunity again. High release flick into the end zone looking for Hunter, but again has been blocked. Some miscommunications. Peczkowski able to get in the way and stop Hunter from getting that disc. Again, high pressure D from Reading here in Callahan country, but just gets outside of the end zone again. Still count now rising again. Not very many options from Descent. Able to reset. Now looking immediately deep. Espinoza slaps that down. Very nervously there. I wanted to say catch your D's.
Frantic few possessions here. This point has been played at a really high pace so far.
Armstrong. To Hunter. Able to pick that disc up, thankfully. Byford. Lots of cuts coming out from the stack. Bignell able to get to the front corner of the end zone. They get in their 5th point. Absolute elation. The sunshine comes out for Reading.
Yeah, lovely point there from Reading once they got the disc back. They were doing really, really well as well at limiting Descent's handler movement. I've talked about Descent locking down Reading's handlers, but we saw a lot of buzz switching between the front two. I think it was Bignell and Armstrong really limiting Descent's movement. Did a really good job there. Obviously, Espinoza comes over, gets pressure block over here, gets an actual block over there. And I thought the high release flick from Bignell was, considering the wind, considering the conditions, the shape on that was lovely. But that was a a lot happened in that point. A lot of stuff going on. And also good to see Bignell comes across the front of the end zone, and I think a defender just pulls out of a bid there. You see it here. Defender just pulls out of the bid, knowing not going to get there, knowing going to cause contact. Nice to see good spirit, good respect for each other, and a good hold for Reading.
Yeah, Mark Bignell has been known for his very quick jab step up the line. It's extremely difficult to shut down.
Yeah, we played Reading recently in kind of warm-up games ahead of this tournament, and I was marking Bignell at one point, and you can take away those up-the-line movements, but if you take away those up-the-line movements, he's going to live in the backfield, touch the disc every other pass. You can't stop him at all. So he's really, really good at dictating the play using that jab step, either the threat of it or actually going up the line. And he's been doing a really good job for Reading so far.
Spiva dumps it off to Ong, gaining quite a few yards. Bodach. Again, still count rising. It's getting a little bit trickier. Highland looking deep, but Reading getting right in the way. Ashton had eyes for that one.
Yeah, puts a hand on it, doesn't try to catch it, just makes sure she knocks it to the ground there. And that is a D for Reading to try and go down and eat into this descent lead. 10-5, there's still a chance here.
Quite a rare error from descent. Bignell chooses to dump off the disc. Ashton, well received there, having to get strong fingertips onto that disc. The wind has now been very blustery, picking up. Interesting angle of disc.
I think Bignell
from a Devon receiver on the sideline.
Bignell has tried to put IO on that, and it was the wrong angle, as you say, Gigi. That's gone a long way out the side of that pitch. But the D-line getting some good movement for Reading there. They were moving the disc around. If they can get this back, this game might not be over if they can really push their level as high as possible.
Spiver checks in, looking for Ong. Gets it. Very low disc. Dives right into the ground. Highland having to go to her knees, but not able to pick that up. Would have been a huge ask. Reading getting moving again. Hunter. Huge grab from Bignell. What a hero catch. But again, maybe looking a little too early. Wanting to get things shut down very quickly, wanting that break.
This is one of the most outrageous dumps I've ever seen. Oh my God.
That is some absolute spice. You can tell that Reading are wanting to have fun in this game. They're doing very well to shut down descent on this front corner of the end zone. Not very many options. You can tell the descent are a little bit hesitant to throw the disc. Spiva looking for the offhand backhand there. High release. Wodach. Wodach fakes the deep. Disc for Ong. Sails up above, having to sky. Unfortunately, Spiva comes up with it. Again, looking deep. It arcing out towards the other sideline. This is getting to be a very blustery back and forth.
It is, and you probably can hear the wind has picked up in this point for sure. It has become quite difficult over the last couple of minutes, and descent moving it around fairly nicely around the back. But as you say, Gigi, there's a couple of times where they popped up a bit. Reading having the same problem. Bignell with the IO that we saw a moment ago. So both teams having to really grind here, and Reading with another chance to try and put in another break. But Bignell decides Huck and D is the way they want to play this.
On getting fingertips, but nobody else was underneath, so didn't necessarily have to go up too high for it. Long with the flared pants. Bignell's getting right in the way, saying no thank you. Some sort of call, a pick. Wigfield versus Spiva downfield.
You see Ong telling both Wigfield and Spiva to calm down. It looks as though it's a retracted call. A retracted call.
This check back in. Sends it all the way around to Ashton. Ashton looking immediately deep for Wigfield, but Spiva gets right in the way. That is not the kind of disc that you want to gift descent. Highland. Up the line, Spiva. Back on the sideline here. Roy sending it deep. Quite a few mistakes we're seeing from descent now. This is not the clean offense that we've heard about.
It really isn't, and the clean offense we saw earlier in this game as well. To be fair, I think on this point they are getting quite a bit of Reading pressure. We saw Chrissy Lynn Hunter there with a really good bid, put off the throw maybe slightly. We saw Bignell as well. You just kind of get that adrenaline if someone goes past you and throw it away immediately. But yeah, you're right. This has not been a clean point so far.
Ashton having to bid for that. Everyone calling it down. It was extremely close.
I think she caught it and then dropped it on contact with the ground, didn't she?
Spiva getting things moving. Looking for Ong up the line, but chooses to dump back to Wodach. Highland again off the fingertips. This is getting extremely difficult. The wind being the 15th player on the pitch, causing a lot of issues. Reading getting the disc moving very quickly. Wakefield to Bignell. Bignell looking immediately deep again to Wakefield. The Spiva's underneath. Some sort of contact. They're going to have a quick discussion again. It's getting quite heated.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations, I think, where certainly in an American game that wouldn't be called, and it looks as though it's been retracted, so it's going to be a turnover.
Wakefield maybe believing that he might not have gotten to the disc. They have chosen to call a timeout. Probably a very wise call, wanting to collect themselves again, take a quick break.
Yeah, both teams getting a little frantic here. There's been a lot of turns, so I think as they take a break, we're going to take a break as well.
Welcome back to the WMUCC WFDF coverage of this Mixed Masters game, live from pitch 3. You're watching Descent from the USA playing against Reading from the UK. Descent having taken a timeout after quite a few scrappy turnovers, now looking to recenter themselves. It looks like a flood play looking for Highland isolated, but they find Ong on the other sideline. Centering to Tucker. Back to Ong. Wodatch, big bid off the shoulder for Fox. Spiva, the name that we have been saying over and over again from this Descent side. Highland. Cross to Wodatch. Not very many options from the front of the end zone, and that was just a misread, a miscommunication between the players. Slightly too far behind. Davis.
It was great offense up to that point, and you could see they called a play out of timeout, and it worked beautifully. They were getting movement, they were getting separation, working around quite nicely, but they are going to get another opportunity because that is a miscue from Bignell to Lind Hunter.
That is a play that Reading do enjoy using, trying to go for the hander up the line strike. Spiva looking immediately to Highland. Highland sending the deep over the top into the hands, but there has been some sort of stoppage. Another foul call.
Yeah, it looks as though Fee Ray has called the foul on the cutter, which is the stoppage here. Maybe the cutter has bumped her as she's making the move.
Has been a contested foul, which means that the disc will be going back to the receiver. Usually at about the same stall count that the disc was released at, but a maximum of 6 under WFDF rules. So Highland back on disc. A lot of pressure from Wakefield on Spiva there. Highland again, another play that we will be mentioning a lot on stream. Stallcount rising, trying to find Wodatch, but Bignell gets right in the way.
Bignell's had a really good point, really good game so far. It's so important for Reading on D, and then for picking it up and slinging it deep.
Fee-Ray reading that well, but again, too many Descent bodies underneath it. Reading seem to want to play a huck and D kind of game, make sure that Descent have to make a lot of mistakes Setting the disc deep, and that is one of the mistakes that they have been currently making quite a lot of in this last point. It has been long. They must be exhausted by now.
This has been a really brutal point for both of these lines. I think these 7 players from both teams are going to be exhausted by the end, not only physically but mentally. You have to concentrate so much on every throw, on every catch, because the wind's taking everything. Ultra Star is fluttering about and flying all over the place in this wind.
Funny you mentioned Ultra Star. Discs in this tournament have been provided by Discraft, the world leader in disc sports, and personally my favorite kind of disc. Descent, showing how to use the disc. Getting yet another point, bring the score up to 11-5. They made that look very easy compared to the rest of this point.
Yeah, they did, and it was somewhat ironic. Reading so focused on not trying to give Descent a short field, and then just a little miscommunication in the backfield, and Descent only have 5-6 meters to go, and Kelly Hyland, who so far in this game has been totally unguardable. I don't think anyone is able to get that close to her. She's so good in short little spaces, getting open, and she is in the right place at the right time to catch that throw from Spiver.
Getting a lot of stats on the board for Hyland. Hyland having previously played for USA Mixed at WBUC. Well, was supposed to be, but has also played for Ireland.
Yeah, European champion in 2019 with Ireland. Many of her teammates here play for Masterclass.
She originally started playing because she was studying abroad in Cork and stumbled into it.
Conditions she'll be well used to. Cork a little further south from here, but the wind, the rain, not really much better in Cork. It's still a pretty windy, rainy place.
So Bacon starting off with the pull here. Reading having to bring it in on the sideline. Espinoza striking up the line, receiving the disc from Godbold, looking immediately deep and actually sending it, looking for Roberts, but that face of the disc. Little too far off, catching the wind wrong, diving into the turf.
I think Roberts has tried to come under because the first one was faked, and as she's turned around, I think Espinoza sent the flick, which just makes it difficult when all your momentum's going the other way.
Getting the disc moving. A horizontal stack, very clustered in the middle of the pitch. A lot of movement, but not a lot of options. Having to find the dump, getting closer into the back of the end zone. Looking immediately deep and finding Denacor. Descent now in a very dangerous position. Daly. Bartenstein faking the hammer. Bacon across the pitch into the hands of Book. Knocking on the door, they're getting ever closer. Just out the fingertips. Again, a bit too bladey.
Yeah, in this wind it's going to be really difficult for the momentum of the disc to carry on.
Gumby finding Espinoza, having to bid for the disc. Thankfully picks it up for Reading, keeping the momentum moving. Godbold. Disc tipped up, catches the wind again. Godbold is not going to be happy about that one. Been a very difficult game for Reading so far.
Yeah, I think we saw on the last possession, they're usually really good at switching, but Caleb Denacor was wide open because they just blew a switch. You can tell mentally they're really stretched at the moment as well, Reading.
That is another very high disc, and thankfully Espinoza reading that, peeling off of his defender. Gumby having eyes for the deep, seeing Godbold, but outmarked and boxed out by Nicholson.
Yeah, I think a little too far over both of them. Another situation where it's caught the wind, showing the edge to the wind, although I think that one was probably flew more in the area of where he wanted it to go, but it feels again a bit of a huck and deep play to me. Godbold didn't have much separation there, and it was a tough one to read. He was on the wrong side of him, really.
Descent now have the entire length of the pitch to have to work up. Finds up the line, Bartenstein. finally the disc moving. Denacor, big fake. Back to Bartenstein. Again, just out of the hands, way too far for Smallen. It's the second disc that she's not been able to get to. Just, it's not her fault necessarily, just the wind getting in the way yet again.
The big Denacor fake there was quite funny because Gunby didn't buy it at all. Feet rooted to the ground. Always entertaining to see something like that.
That is very much a Gumbyism. Sam Gumby having been a very experienced player for Reading.
Couldn't quite rule that one in.
Looking immediately deep again, finding Denacor. Anyone that sees Denacor deep is just going to go for it. Can they reel it in? Book in the front end zone, that's been called a score. Fantastic feat. Descent finally able to convert that break.
I'm not 100% sure that is who Denacor was throwing that disc to. It looked to me as though he was throwing to the receiver in front of him, whose number I didn't catch, but sits in the wind, as it has for absolutely everybody so far. You see there the Anya Godbold throw, even the slightest bit of a mistake where you haven't put enough spin on it, and both teams are seeing these discs absolutely sail. Really tough conditions at the moment. It has really changed in the last 10 minutes, but a good throw to Denacor, a good catch from Denacor, and he is able to execute some kind of offensive set. Even if it wasn't the offensive set I think they wanted to get. Good feet there at the end.
Both of those teams do realize that any mistakes that they make will be, they will suffer from it. Both defenses are extremely tight. Everybody is under each disc. You have defenders peeling off from each other, poaching, getting in the way. So a lot of blocks from both sides as a result of it.
Got some of the offensive players from Reading playing another point here. Espinoza and Roberts have been really key players so far, been generating a lot of Reading's best movement. Got Godbold on here as well, who's been an important offensive player for them for a long time. An absolutely unbelievable pass from Espinoza to Godbold there. Stops the pull and just bashes it into his path.
A little bit of a block and just gets right in the way. Book now. A little bit of a stumble. Cranston, big fakes, is in front of the end zone, and Espinoza bids. Absolutely no chance.
Another one where Reading have just read the thrower. They're doing a lot of poaching off into this underneath space. Bignell and Espinoza are both very effective at doing it, and that is a great block from Espinoza.
Godbold taking some time to wipe down the edge of the disc. Fair few poachy sets from Descent. Reading players striking up the line, looking to move it off. Godbold having to give it a bit of a tip, unfortunately. He wasn't able to catch his own disc. It hadn't been touched by any other players. So almost having to hand it back to Descent. Descent on the sideline. Very well caught, very well read. Giving them yet another point. I believe there has been, there is now a change in the score. It is now correct at 13-5. It was incorrect for the previous point.
Not quite sure what happened here, but it looked as though when the disc comes in, it comes in on the sideline, and Caleb Denacor, for some reason, is unmarked in the end zone. I mean, if we've seen in this game one person that you really don't want to leave unmarked, it's Caleb Denacor, having an absolutely fantastic game so far. He's got a goal, 4 assists, I think, 3 blocks. He is playing brilliantly, as you would expect, but just another situation where Reading kind of stretched to breaking point mentally, where it's so difficult when this team is so good and they're challenging you in so many different ways. This Descent team, Gigi, looks to be very, very strong.
We could be seeing Descent in the final of the Masters Mixed Division. You will be able to catch all of the upcoming quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals matches completely free on the WFDF YouTube channel. Thank you very much to WFDF for supporting and promoting the global advancement of this sport and spirit of the game. We've seen a lot of very well-spirited games so far at this tournament. Nothing too contentious, thankfully.
I think Descent are going to be improving as well, because our understanding is that Pony, Handler, USA player in 2020 if the tournament happened. Sean Keegan is going to be turning up and playing for them. So he's, you know, pony player, USA player. He's not bad.
Not bad at all. Reading now looking to answer. Godbold boost disc well. Put up on the sideline. Finds Bignell. Dumps it off well, but Godbold was completely free. Most likely as a result of a pick. Did affect the play, so the disc will go back to Bignell. I can imagine that Godbold will probably come back out or even strike up the line. That is not something that she is uncommon to do. She's more affectionately known as the captain or the commander for the WCC Reading mixed team. Finding in the front of the end zone, just off the fingertips, Gumby.
Absolute laser throw in these conditions.
Sent immediately looking off to Highland. Cranston having to rise up for that disc. Fakes the big flick deep. Gumby peeling off, trying to get a block in. Cranston shaking his head. Bartenstein, again, big fake for the deep. Reading doing very well to shut down a lot of these options, having to go for a dub pass to reset the stall. Just off the fingertips, Daly, Ashley Daly not able to reel that one in. That was very difficult to catch, having to sprint full momentum and grab at the same time.
Another situation where Descent are moving it really nicely. I think that's just a case of the conditions being a little bit too challenging for that pass, but their handler movement for most of the game, other than a couple of long points there, their handler movement has been absolutely fantastic. And another big throw from Sam Gumby, looking for Mariana Larocque. She can't quite get there though, a little bit too much on it.
Gumby definitely trusting in Larocque's sprinting abilities. She is incredibly fast, she's a very powerful player. Having represented MESH, this very strong UK initiative for the Minority Ethnic Showcase, now building and developing Ultimate for minority and ethnic players in the UK.
She was a GB Beach player as well for the aborted tournament in LA that didn't happen, but she was on the Mixed Masters team, and I think she's going to WCC with SICK, is she not, Mariana Larocque? So a very good player who's been doing some cool stuff recently.
So a big bladey throw down the sideline. A lot of players having to run and stop the roll. Although it would have been very advantageous for Descent for the disc to continue rolling, giving Reading much more pitch to have to work down. Gumby throwing it deep to Bignell. I almost said Gimbal because that would be an amalgamation of Gumby and Bignell. They're often the same player also. Lorcan is walking around with a gimbal, putting ideas into my head.
You saw there as well, we could hear from a commentary position, Cranston yelling strings, Schoenrock's nickname, looking for that switch, and Schoenrock was able to come off and push Bignell into a misread on that throw.
Cranston sliding down to his knees, looking for a big flick deep. A lot of bodies underneath it. Schoenrock not able to get that off. Bignell putting a lot of pressure underneath.
Yeah, the wind pushed that a little further, a little higher than they expected, I think. Both Bignell and Schoenrock thought they had a good read on it, but Larocque cleans up the mess behind them.
Godbold looking for options. Brown is completely isolated and free in the end zone. There is a pick further downfield. Whether it would affect the play there is up for debate. MacArthur saying, no, you keep hold of that disc, that is yours. Brown checking in. Again, Byford is completely free in the middle of the pitch. Larocque. Dumps off to Brown. Reading seem to have been given the under options completely free. Descent are very aware of the fact that Reading are dangerous deep. Stumbles off the chest of Brown, but manages to maintain possession. Bignell. Beautiful inside shot just off the fingertips of Larocque into the hands of the Descent players. Bartenstein now now another big fake deep. Calling his players under. Shannon on the sideline. Cranston. Cussing is slowed down a fair bit. MacArthur looking deep for Daly. Daly able to convert, bringing them 1 point closer to capping off this game.
That was an absolutely beautiful flick into strong winds, and it's right out in front of Daly. Beautifully waited for her to run onto. We also saw, I think it was Barnstein, with the typical handler demands. You saw him wave Shannon away, and then about a second later be really annoyed and call him back underneath. As handlers ourselves, Gigi, I'm familiar with being very, very upset with cutters, whatever they do. They never do the right thing. They never do what we want them to do. But that was fun and a great throw at the end. Another timeout here as Reading kind of try and regroup and stop Descent from getting the win. But 14-5, Descent are on the doorstep.
And we will take a break. Back to the latter part of this Masters mixed game, Reading Ultimate versus Descent from the USA. We've seen a lot of back and forth, a game of two very different appearances. We saw some very clean offense from Descent, and then it started to get quite scrappy. Reading also putting up a huge fight so far, having given the best performance against Descent. What do you think is going to happen in this last little part of the game?
It seems like a fait accompli at this point that Descent are going to win. They're very, very strong, this team from Washington, D.C. But Reading have put up a good performance, I think, so far. I think they haven't made too many, they haven't been outclassed. It's just Descent have been really, really clinical, and they talked about their clean offense before the game, and we've definitely seen more of that from them than we have from Reading. So they've worked really well through these conditions. I think they're probably going to win this game, but hopefully for Reading they're able to put another point or two in. They've already matched all the other opponents Descent have had. Descent's opponents scored 5 points in 3 games up to this point, and Reading have matched that. So small victories, but still, I think overall, both teams coming out of this game with some positives.
100%. Espinoza bringing in the Brits pole. Looking for the center pass immediately, but finds Roberts instead. Huge block from Book, having to extend herself, getting full extension layout.
That was really good.
Sean's easily impressed, as you can see. But that was an incredibly impressive block either way. Delacour with the scuba into the end zone, taking this game comfortably for the last point as the rain begins to hammer down. That was a wonderful game to watch. Reading putting on a huge striking performance, but Descent showing their class.
I think that last point was a good summary of the game, to be honest with you. Reading played well and are a good team, but that was a massive layout block and then a very spicy scuba that you're just never going to stop. Descent can do too many things that Reading just couldn't hang with. They're just a really good team, but good performance from Reading. But Descent, I imagine we'll be seeing them later in the tournament, Gigi.
100%. Reading now moving through the last parts of the power pools. Descent are most likely going to top it, but anything can happen. Keep up with the action from the World Flying Disc Federation, World Masters Ultimate Club Championships. Thank you very much for joining us. Continue watching us on the stream from the WFDF YouTube channel. We now have 2 pitches streaming all week, completely free. Stick around for the action. Remember, the footage is copyrighted World Flying Disc Federation. Thank you very much. I've been Jeannie Morrison.
I'm Sean Colfer.
we'll see you later.
See ya.
Alti.tv.
We have 4 hours and 45 minutes of game time.